Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, Tara, do you mind doing a roll call? By chance? Kim Harper's not here. On the second page of roll call.
Yep.
Okay.
Supervisor File absent. John Doolin.
Here.
David Giddens.
Here?
Kim Harper.
Wow.
Absent.
Dave's really stepped into that.
That's loud.
Sam Morocco.
Here.
Gus.
He's on his way, but.
And Tara Hansen here.
All right, very good. So we need to approve the minutes from last month, September 17th, 2025. Gus, thank you for
Hi, guys.
joining us.
Sorry.
We just got started.
Let's see.
Hi, sorry, I'm writing,
You're
sorry.
What's going on?
Good to see
Sorry
you.
about it.
I'll
You're
make a
okay.
motion to accept the minutes of September 17th as submitted.
I second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None are opposed, very good. We do need to make an amendment to this agenda. Okay. Okay. So E is our presentations. I don't know if, Dick, I know you were here, you've got limited time, so we wanted to make sure that we started the meeting. So
No, I actually have, David, I have more time than what I thought I was going to have, so
okay.
be happy to stay with you. I don't have as much time as maybe the full meeting will last, but I certainly have time to get through some of these budget issues and things that we need to discuss, so.
Okay.
Okay?
So we'll bring you in during reports.
Okay.
Is there anybody online for public comment? I don't see anyone. Okay. And then G, we need to review the agenda and make an amendment.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add the DDA 2026 budget report and recommendation as item I3.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Very good. Any other amendments or changes? All right.
And I will make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Financial matters. H, I'm sure we're going to talk about that in the reports category. So, I1, revised proposal approach. Is that something that was added by you, Dick?
Well, yeah, it was. I'm not sure, is Jason present?
Yes,
Yep,
Jason
he's
is here. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just introduced this briefly. This, if you remember the discussion that we had at the last meeting was regarding the safety patent evaluation.
Yeah.
And one of the requests that was made is to determine whether we needed more investigation of existing utilities. Jason has met with Dave McKee and they revised their proposal. And so I'll turn it over to Jason to explain that. And then I would ask that what we do tonight is that we get direction and endorse this proposal, but I don't think we can take final action until the budget, until we actually get our budget discussions completed. And I have some suggestions about how to move forward on all of this. But I think Jason should present first,
Okay.
and then I'll follow up.
All right, the
Sure.
floor is yours,
Yep.
Jason.
Jason Longhurst, Noack and Fraus. So the revised proposal that you have in front of you is based on a meeting we had with Mr. McKee. We went through and looked at the 5 different segments of the DDA plan, and he identified 2 of them where he felt he had gaps in water and sewer coverage. The other three he felt were adequate, and that it didn't justify any additional surveying scope there. So what we did is we amended the proposal for phases, or Zone 2 and Zone 3, and you'll notice that the survey budget and those two items was increased from the previous iteration of the proposal. Everything else remained the same as what we had previously discussed with the committee here. So with that, I think we've got the goal accomplished of what was discussed at the last meeting to do a subsurface investigation in those two areas to facilitate any future design that we may have for water and sewer infrastructure.
Okay. Are those two areas the only ones that we're going to make the addition for because we have drawings for the other segmented areas?
Mr. McKee felt that all of the other zones, all of the properties that front Dixie Highway or the DDA's coverage area had water and sewer available to them. So there wasn't a need for infrastructure improvements in those areas because the parcels all either are being served or could be served without a major infrastructure update.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions about that change? At last meeting, we discussed that we should have our phones out for meetings. No, we discussed,
I almost fell over.
we discussed that, they were gonna check out the infrastructure, or the above-ground infrastructure, but we wanted to see, you were gonna do the underground infrastructure,
Yeah,
correct?
so the proposal that we were doing for you was a LiDAR scan of surface conditions.
Yes.
And then the amended proposal adds underground, data to that for those two areas.
Okay, all right.
Right. Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Sam. Yes.
what I would suggest to you is, I believe that what Noack and Frost have done here is be responsive to sorry about that. We still have a landline.
His answering machine.
I'm gonna pause for a minute.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Dick?
I can hear you fine, it's just that my
Okay.
phone, my landline is, Anyway, I feel like I'm back, this is COVID again, So, anyway, the proposal is responsive to what was requested of them. The only issue here is that we're gonna have to sort this out from a budgetary standpoint, and to determine just how much of this study that you can fund next year, given the pending Gateway project. And I think what we need is just a little bit more time to discuss some options before you give it final approval in November for a 2025 project. I am 100% in support of the direction of this, but I think that given the cost of the proposal versus the budget you have before you tonight, you're going to need to have some advice in terms of how we can modify the budget to be able to accommodate at least a good part of what Jason is proposing to do. Jason, I do have one real quick question for you, because I did not really discuss this. I think we discussed it, but I don't remember. To do this field work, you're probably gonna wanna do this when the weather, you're not gonna wanna do this during inclement weather, really? Is that correct?
Yeah, the LiDAR equipment that we use is great, but it doesn't work when there's snow coverage on the ground. It does not have the
Okay.
ability to see through snow. So we would either want to do it going into winter or coming out of.
Yeah, so I don't think realistically we can do this starting yet, okay? So in all likelihood, that we really won't start this until spring of next year, at which time I think then now we can start to program this over a 2-year budget cycle, so that the analysis work and the final bills come due in budget year 27. And that will help accommodate a future discussion here. And what I would like the board is, to at least give us direction that they like this approach. And then we get into and then we'll talk about it in the budget part of this discussion. And then finally, Jason and I will sort of figure out a schedule in terms of how this can actually, how much budget's gonna be needed for next year versus the following year, and then come back in November, the November board meeting with a final recommendation to the DDA.
Okay, fair enough.
Does that sound fair? Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that we had discussed briefly at the last meeting was, the DDA not necessarily taking on the full brunt of this expense. There's other committees that are
Right.
going to benefit from these safety paths. So, whether that be the safety path committee or the
Yeah.
township itself, us taking on this, almost $160,000 expense, could that be split? And I think when we had our budget, we were looking at it last meeting, it looked like we were anticipating doing a 50-50 split with another committee. So unfortunately, the supervisor's not here, so I don't have his input.
No. Well, and that's the second part of a recommendation that I have for you tonight, is that I would ask, David, that you as a committee appoint 2 members to meet with the safety path committee and me and discuss, this entire proposal, because unfortunately the supervisor did represent what it is that you are trying to do, but I think the safety path committee was left a little bit in the dark about what our overall intentions are here. So I think it would be, between now and the next meeting, what I would ask is you have 2 members designated. I'll ask Mr. McKee to set up a meeting with, if not the whole committee, at least their officers, and we will sit down and discuss this and sort of, discuss the options that are before us and how we would like to have their participation. The other part about this is I think we want to be careful not to lead ourselves into a study that identifies the necessity for all these improvements and then not have their participation in the future for the bigger part of this, which will be construction budget, and not have their buy-in. I think it's a good time to open up that dialogue. So that would be the second part of what I would ask you to do here is, 1, endorse the approach, 2, direct, and then appoint 2 members to accompany me in the meeting with the Safety Path Committee and Mr. McKee, so that we can encourage their participation, at least in a portion of this study. And then we'll come back to the DDA board in November with the final plan put in place.
Okay. Sam?
I just want to get all this straight, Dick. So I think that right now on our agenda, we're just talking about this revised proposal, and I think that, first we want to agree that, I think that we had a consensus at the last meeting that we saw value in doing a comprehensive study of the whole district, not just parts
Yes.
and pieces. Who's going to pay for it's yet to be determined, exactly.
Right.
Who's
Right.
going to contribute. But as far as this goes, I think that with the clarification from Dave on segments 2 and segment 3, that we don't need to get as involved because they've got utilities and stuff there. Is that
2 and 3 would be the add.
2
1, 4, and 5 would be
4 and 5 are
Yeah.
the ones we don't need to do. 2 and 3 we do need to
Correct.
do. Right,
Yep.
would be mandatory.
Right.
So I think just a consensus that this is a good plan segues us into the next thing on our agenda, Dick, if you don't have a copy, is the picking of the people to sit with you on the safety path thing,
Correct.
And then then we would pick up this discussion about piecemealing this into the budget discussion that we added as item number 3, right? So they kind of all
Yes.
working in the same,
Yeah,
working
that's-
together, so.
You have that
um,
exactly. That is exactly what I'm suggesting. it will only delay action on this for a month for something that's not gonna start until probably May anyway,
Do we,
but it,
do we
yeah,
need to make a
but-
motion to accept this proposal as the one that, as what we're moving forward, or is any action need to be taken on this proposal for us to, accept it as a guide for, future, work?
I don't think a formal motion is necessary because, I mean, it's funding, look, it's gonna get down to a decision for you, I think the scope of the study seems to be acceptable to everybody. And the only issue is gonna be as to whether we get participation in funding from the Safety Path Committee for any portion of it. And then if that is or is not the case, then it's gonna be a budgetary issue as to, over what period this evaluation work is done to fit in with the Safety Path Committee, or excuse me, with the DDA's budget. So really, I think what it would be, I think that your motion could be to approve the scope of the study, and then to appoint 2 members of the Safety Path, to the DDA to meet with the Safety Path Committee to discuss funding options. That to me would be the most appropriate action on the part of your board tonight. Did that make sense?
It makes sense, but if we
Yes.
approve it, without a contingency of getting, support from the safety path, then we're just saying we're moving forward on our own. And, I mean, that's
Well,
a big chunk of our budget for next
I
year.
agree, and I'm not asking you to commit to that from that standpoint, and that's why I think there is a budgetary consideration. So, I think scope and budget, you're right, could be construed as the same thing. Fortunately, you're working with somebody, Jason, who's not gonna start work on anything unless you approve it. If you're more comfortable just delaying this for another month, Jason, I'm sure Jason's fine with it.
Yep.
As well as I.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like something we're gonna get to before spring anyways, realistically.
Yeah, I agree.
I would like to have that conversation with the safety committee before we make a decision. It sounds like we have the
I agree.
time.
Well, we got the numbers. That's all we need off of this document today, is we just
Right.
need the numbers, so we can talk about the budget, immediately following. Signing it or agreeing to it, I don't think it, like you said, is not relevant today. But now that we've styled in the scope, we actually have numbers that we can,
Right, but those numbers don't really matter until we've talked to the Safety Path Committee to see if we're getting any funding from them.
well, I think that we need to, when we get to our budget talk, we need to talk about, we need to put in the budget to do stuff. Now, whether we use it or get subsidized is a different thing to me, but the work's.
Yeah, the total's the total.
The total's the total, the work's getting done. Even if we were to budget for 50% of this, and then we got contributions from either the township, the safety path, or grants, or anything, we just wouldn't spend all the money that we budgeted for it, you know what I mean? But, is that how that works, Dick?
Yeah,
But we've got to commit to the budget to go in front of the board, so we want to make sure that there's enough money in it, whether we pay for it or not, that we're not coming back amending it, I'd rather have more money in a budget and not use it, instead of having less money in a budget and then a bunch sitting in the fund balance that's not allocated. Then you've got to go ask, then we've got to go through the motions to allocate. Maybe that's not the right way to do it, but that to me makes more sense, is to try to cover ourselves with our budget, and then if we don't use it all, we don't use it all, but our tasks are able to move forward.
Sam, can I ask a question, Sam, of you?
Yeah.
Because it was not clear, it's not clear to me, because I haven't seen any outline of the budget process. When does the board actually have to approve the budgets?
I was thought that it was gonna have to be done by the end of November, but we only, we don't have a meeting. The first meeting in November's canceled due to a election in Lake Orion or something, a precinct we're counting, so, we just received, today, a cut of the general fund budget for us to review, for the board members to start reviewing, because we asked for a month to go through the documents, because there's, the budget's so big. We didn't want to have it, a week before the meeting and expect to go through 500 pages of budget. So I'm thinking that, I've always thought it was the end of November. I'm thinking that they're gonna, that it's gonna be the end of November, but that's what I believe to be correct.
Well, if that is the case, that we will have time then, and this will get a little bit more into the DDA budget discussion. We'll have time to resolve this by your next meeting and then have a recommended budget figure. I mean, it may be that the board is not gonna approve a budget until December too, Sam.
It could be, we have time for a meeting before the next board meeting.
Yeah,
We have one this Tuesday and then not another one till the end of November. So our meeting will fall before the next official board meeting, since the first one in November was canceled.
correct.
So we
Okay,
can,
so I think we have time, and, I guess, I think the only action then that really needs to happen here regarding this item is for two board members to, the chair to appoint two board members to sit down with the Safety Path Committee, because they're, on all likelihood, the only other source that will fund this at this point in time. And then from there, we'll know where we stand with what we can come back to you in November with, if there is going to be any cost participation.
Okay.
all right.
Is that,
Yeah.
Is the supervisor already on that board? Do you know? Is he on the safety path committee?
yes,
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So he'll be one and then two additional. John, you would like to be one of the two? Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to be? So Sam and John would like to? Okay.
I was gonna volunteer you like you always do me, but let's try to be
Do
nice.
it.
So
I'd like to go in there and strong arm people.
I have a question that's going to appear at first as me disagreeing, but I just want to ask it, because this is, like, I just keep feeling like I'm a dog on a leash here. But Jason, if everything fell into place, does the firm even have the resources to get this done before the first snow falls?
We do, yeah.
Okay,
The LiDAR scanning, could be done before snow falls, no
Okay.
issues. But again, it's, the rates are good through next year. That's, not a problem whether we do it now or we do it in the spring.
all right, just curious.
that's a good question though, John.
Thanks, Dick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We don't want anybody on this board to feel like a dog on a leash, by God,
It's mostly Sam, for what's
Yeah.
worth. Keeps yanking me back.
so do we need to make a motion to have you join that meeting? I mean, we'll probably have to set up a special meeting, because I don't know when their meetings are.
It'll
The
be a
safety
special, it'll
path.
be a special meeting, just for this, I would think. You don't know when the safety paths meet, do you, Dick? I don't know if you want to do it there.
Jason, do you know, I'm
I
having
think
a
it
feeling
would do it
it's
At their meeting.
like it's usually, I think they meet the Tuesday before you meet.
Yeah,
So I think they meet monthly, but I think it's the Tuesday night before the Wednesday of the next week that you meet. So I think they would have met a week ago. But we will get with
I think we're
Dave
ready to special
McKee.
meeting.
Jason and I will get with, and Jason, you should be at that meeting too, if you can be there, okay?
Yep.
And so therefore,
Can we just direct you to set this up, Dick?
yeah,
Oh,
I will. Uh-huh.
Okay.
We will.
Perfect. All right.
Can we make a motion on it?
I think we should before we move on. Yeah, well, I'll make a motion. Make a motion to have a special meeting between the Safety Path Committee and two members of the DDA, John Doolin and Sam Morocco, to meet before our next November meeting to discuss the, the contributions for the safety path on Dixie Highway.
Yep.
Sounds good to me, I support it.
You second it?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right.
John Doolin was here, folks.
He raised his hand.
Just I'm laughing at the ventriloquist over here.
I'm trying to get it in their head already to give us the money, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, before we let you get out of here, do you have any update for us from the engineering on the Gateway Park?
I do,
And,
yeah.
and more specifically, when we'll be ready to send out the RFP, so, because landscaping companies are, I'm thinking, going into their slow season, so they'll have more, hopefully we can get more people, companies involved in sending us bids at this time.
Yep. So we've been working to advance the conceptual design. As part of that, there is a stormwater component to what we need to do. The existing site had a single catch basin kind of in the middle of the property that was a leaching basin, so it had no outlet. The only place for water to go was into the ground. As part of our proposed system, we will be required to do some infiltration testing, so we have to get a geotechnical company to come out, do a test there to find out what the permeability of the existing soils are. That was part of our original scope, so we're moving forward with that test now that we have a design and we kind of know where the stormwater management system needs to go. So that's ongoing. That should be completed over the next, I would say, probably 3 weeks. And what we've got to do, I guess there's a question now. The township has recently adopted a waiver system for stormwater management. Our site falls under an acre, which is normally the threshold for the county as to whether or not stormwater management is triggered or not. However, the township ordinance has historically looked at any land disturbance as requiring stormwater management to meet county standards. So I guess the question I would have for this board is, if we get good infiltrating soils, would we be interested in looking at possibly doing an alternate design to fall under this waiver process, or would we want to comply fully with the WRC and the typical township standards? And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, again, this all depends on how the soils are, but there could be a difference in magnitude as to how big our system ends up needing to be. To meet the full standard ordinance, we might have to have, it could be upwards of like 3,800 cubic feet of storage. If we get good soils, we might be able to cut that in half.
Okay.
It all depends on the results of these tests, but I just kind of wanted to take the temperature to see where we might stand there.
Okay. And you're not considering tying into the stormwater at all?
So we can't outlet to Dixie Highway because Dixie Highway is under the jurisdiction of MDOT, and MDOT will not take any new drainage if it hasn't historically flown into their right of way.
Okay.
So the only other available storm sewers are in the parking lots on property that we don't own on either side. So if we wanted to look at trying to connect to those, we'd have to get obviously permission from that property owner to connect to it, and then we'd have to find out, does it even have capacity to accept additional drainage?
Right.
So our thought is that we would do either a retention or some sort of infiltration system that would meet the ordinance requirements, and then if there, for some reason, was a storm event that exceeded what that system could handle, it would, percolate up through the ground and then overflow out of the right of way, kind of following a normal flood pattern that all the other sites would do.
Okay.
Sure.
Sam?
Definitely want to go with the waiver plan. I mean, that's the only one that makes any sense. I think that's going to become a commonly used thing now. So I did submit it to go in for a second reading Tuesday. Hopefully that made it on the agenda. So that would give us that ability to use that. There's over 150 parcels in this township that are commercial properties that are under an acre. So this is something that's long overdue to give us some flexibility to be able to develop small parcels outside of the stormwater standards of the county, which they only regulate above an acre because of that reason, that their standard kind of needs some land to work, So if the soils are permeable and everything works, I mean, I would definitely, that's why we're moving forward with the ordinance change to give us that flexibility to make a project
It's the
more
perfect
affordable
candidate.
and viable to work, or otherwise the whole park would be sitting on top of storage tubes,
Wow.
basically. You'd have to dig the whole entire parcel up, put underground storage, and then build on top of all that with the county standard. So, but my suggestion would, that's exactly why we're changing, we're in the process right now. We've already had one reading, it was uncontentious, everyone voted unanimously for it to align us with the county standards to give us that flexibility. So we're a meeting away from that being an option for us, which will save the DDA a considerable amount of cost
Okay.
if the soils are permeable.
Yep.
I don't disagree with Sam.
Well, we'll proceed down that approach.
You
And then
should
the
be
only other,
able to
I guess,
Oh,
item,
I agree, yeah.
the site currently has a drive approach that's accessing it from Dixie Highway. There's sidewalk in front of there. The proposed improvements can tie in with that drive approach without doing any work in the right of way. And obviously with future plans that we're talking about here, there might be a new pathway or something else that goes on there. So our thought or our recommendation is to just tie in with the existing drive approach and not do a brand new drive approach pending future improvements. And again, I just wanted to take the temperature of the group to see if you're on board with that recommendation.
Is it near where so the design that we had Chris draw up was, the approach was gonna go, drive in, I think it was gonna be 12 feet, is that what we agreed to? So that, a maintenance vehicle could get in, is it aligned with the way the park's designed, or would it change the whole design,
No,
is my
the
question?
design aligns with the existing approach location. So it just will be, the existing conditions will be there, and you'll have new stuff on site, you'll have the older pavement out in the right of way.
Right.
But it'll avoid the need to go to MDOT for any sort of permitting, and then it'll avoid putting infrastructure in that might get removed as part of a future project, pathway project.
Yeah, it would probably get redone with the safety path anyways, so I'm fine with
I
that.
would tie in
Yep.
to the original.
Yeah, we're gonna use removable bollards for traffic control, so if it lines up, might as well just, as long as it's not disintegrating, there's no sense in redoing all the curb work and all that.
Yep.
Right now, that's gonna save you a whole bunch of money, frankly, which does affect this budget. Jason, when you did did you or Chris do the budget estimate for the park? Was it Chris?
I think Chris did that one, yeah, it's not ringing a bell for me.
Okay, so I don't remember what we had in there for demolition of that curb cut, but, I think at this point in time, this is gonna be a significant issue, I think, in terms of cost that to the benefit of the DDA if we don't do this. And as long as Jason's comfortable that we can put in the proper control there, that we don't have traffic, just random traffic entering the site, then I totally agree with this recommendation.
Yeah, and not having to deal with MDOT's gonna save a lot of time, which is valuable as well. Again, I'd like to, hopefully get this to the point of sending out the RFP rather quickly. So you're saying possibly 3 weeks before you, find out the soil testing and if we're gonna need a larger basin. What's the time frame after that? Is that the last thing that you're waiting on?
Yeah, so from our standpoint, I would say we're looking at, mid to late November, we'll have full construction drawings ready so that we can bid these out over the winter and be ready for, construction in the spring.
Okay. I'm happy with that.
Great, that's great news.
Very good. All right, any other questions for Jason before we let him go?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jason.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jason.
it.
Your last name is Longhurst, correct?
Longhurst, yep.
Thank you.
All right, very good. So the last thing that we have to discuss is the budget approval that we just amended. It's kind of hard to approve a budget if we end up approving this the scope of work that Noark and Frost is going to do for the safety path, right? Because that would alter the budget.
Well, if I could, there was money, let me enlighten the board in terms of kind of what has been going on for the last month and a half. I think I spent a little bit of time explaining to you in your last meeting. But, we've been working very hard to try to get the DDA numbers corrected. And your new, Assessor Greg has been doing a really good job of reviewing the projections, and I think now we have solid projections in terms of what the revenues are going to be. So I'm very confident that the revenue projections that we now have, he is very confident, and I should say I concur with him, are correct now. And so what you see in this budget is actually, you look across the top, basically the top, the very first line, which is current property taxes, you will see that in 2025, we were anticipating $294,000 in captured property taxes. The actual projections actually expect that to be greater, but some of that may carry over in terms of an actual cash basis until the following year, because of when winter taxes are paid. The next year, in 2026, you are anticipated to have $439,000 in captured revenues, which will grow to $487,000 in 2027. Then there's some incidental interest that goes along with that. So eventually, it's a little bit more than what is actually projected. The point being is that we're still kind of sorting out what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years, so that we know what your fund balance will be going into next year. And right now, that fund balance is projected to be, or estimated to be, $279,000 at the end of 2025. I happen to think that it's actually going to be more, because I do have some questions about some of the entries here that are made in 2025 that I don't understand what they are. For example, the $80,000 line item under the amended budget, I don't know what that's for. I think that was for initial construction of the park. So that item may well come out of there. Because if you look at the bottom line really gets down to the activity this is what the projections are through 2025. And that 80,000 is not in there. So I think the fund balance may actually be a little bit higher going into next year. But let's just, for the time being, deal with the fact that it'd be $279,000. So if you look at the budget for 2025, what I recommended to the supervisor is currently reflected in this budget, but it's just presented in a different way. From a major standpoint, I suggested that we budget $250,000 for the Gateway Park. We will still owe a final third installment of $60,000 for the property. And then it's roughly another $100,000 for administration, professional services, and then any kind of services related to projects. So right now, there would not be enough money budgeted here for Noack and Frous to do the study. There's only roughly about $35,000 that is unaccounted for related to a active project. In other words, I've got $30,000 in here for Noack and Frous to do the construction, engineering, and bid administration for the actual project. So we would have to actually, we'd have to increase this entire budget by, close to $100,000, if not a little bit more, to accommodate the full scope of this study. But so this is the budget that is before you, and what I'd like to say is that with the fund balance and the expected revenues next year, increasing your consulting budget here to do the study by $100,000 could be accommodated in this budget based on fund balance and what the revenue projections are. There is one small caveat to this, is that in the strategic investment plan that I gave you, I was expecting to be accumulating fund balance over the next several years for the DDA to fund the township's obligation on the White Lake Road, Dixie Highway intersection improvement projects. That has not formally come to you as a board for your approval. And it would need to have your approval for that cost participation. As later years go on, participating in that on a extended period would not probably be a problem, but it just depends on how long that period is, because your revenues, you can start to see where your revenues are starting to increase. Next year is almost $500,000. This is what it's going to look like, for the next number of years. It's going to continue to be going up. And this does not include any expectations of new development or new investment in the corridor. This is predominantly just at the rate of inflation. So your revenues, barring some kind of catastrophe here, your revenues are going to continue to escalate more than what you're showing here. But we do need to reach an agreement with the township board about your level of participation in the White Lake Road project, because that's a $700,000 bill.
Yeah, I don't see that on here. I mean, I see it in 2028 White Lake Road Strategic Investment Plan, page 10, which is on the third page, and it says 0 for this year, and it looks like in 2028,
Yeah, that's right.
it's gonna be 75,000, which is still just a tiny dent.
No, well,
10%.
because, no, I don't. Well, I mean, it's not $75,000. That was for water and sewer, I think. I think what I did was, I'm trying to remember, but I believe that I had programmed in the DDA's participation over a period of 5 years. So the $700,000. So in other words, what this means is the township board would have to advance the funds or pay it basically when the bill comes due from MDOT. And then, but we would have a cost sharing agreement between the DDA and the township board to pay all or a portion of that $700,000. It's really, this has to be discussed and negotiated between the DDA and the board. The board cannot make the decision, meaning the township board cannot make the decision to spend tax increment funds on that project without your agreement, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Sam had a question regarding that.
Dick, and I'm feeling like there's a pattern here that the DDAs, everyone wants to dump everything on the DDA and nobody wants to participate, and I don't believe that that's necessarily typically the way it's been done in the past. So let me ask you this. All the road developments in the CIA, who participated? Did the township participate with the general fund money a little bit, and did other entities participate? Because it seems like it's usually a joint venture, and it seems like everybody wants us to the DDA is just going to absorb the cost of everything. So what's happened in the past when big capital improvement like this?
Yeah, it's been a joint process. I mean, there were water and sewer funds, there were safety path funds, there were, undoubtedly some township board funds. I mean, some of that has been you know, much of the cost of that is being reimbursed, but, I mean, it was definitely, you know, I think, Sam, I think part of the circumstance that we do face is that, you know, we have lots of new faces here. We don't have that history that, you know, these things were all done on a participatory basis. And, for example, you know, the CIA might have thrown in $200,000 towards a $400,000 project, or something of that nature. So, I think that's the nature of the discussion that we have to have here, Sam.
Because I'm concerned about, excuse me, that, like, if we're gonna put up the big portion of the dough for the road improvement, you know, then, you know, there's gonna be safety path improvements that are gonna have to go along with that. There's gonna be other things that, you know, that,
Yeah, you're right.
that other people would typically contribute towards, you know? It doesn't mean they're 50-50, but something. It's, you know, I don't like the idea of us taking the burden on of everything if the history of the township's been you know, everybody working together.
Yeah.
I would assume we're gonna pick up the grunt of it, but I don't want everyone to assume now that we're just an open wallet, that the DDA is gonna just cover everybody's infrastructure, because I would argue, not that, I don't think that it is a benefit, but you have to argue, our money is, in my opinion, is there, the capture's there to invest in the corridor to encourage more investment. Now, I don't know that
Yeah.
us flipping the whole bill for adding a right turn lane is doing what the intent of the DDA, and it's, you know, it does, you know what I mean? That it helps, but it's not really gonna, I don't know how you tie that to all going to business benefit, you know? It's shared with residential benefit and community-wide benefit, so proportionately, I think
You're
that,
correct.
you know,
Didn't the township cover some of the light here in the CIA district? Or was that all done by the CIA? Cause that's a recent one that was just done here at
No.
Walden and, what is
No,
this?
I think CIA included that entire.
They did. Cause that was
Yeah,
their final
but-
project?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of, I mean, there was, you know, there's been, you know, utility improvements, there's been safety path improvements, you know, all of which came from, you know, we had to package a whole source of funding to do everything that we did on Sasha Bar Road. So, no, I think you make an excellent point, and that's kind of my concern, is that once we get done with the Nowak and Frous study, you know, we may show, you know, how many millions of dollars worth of improvements, and as, you know, hopefully the approach will not be that, well, this is entirely the DDA's responsibility, because, you know, the fact of the matter is that the DDA, you know, properties, you know, also pay into the safety path fund.
that was my argument as a business owner on Dixie Highway, that, you know, we're paying into the safety
Me
path
too.
fund. I don't want them to just wash their hands of it and go, now it's
Yeah,
just the
well,
DDA's problem. Not that they are, but there's
And
those,
let's be, no, and they're not, and let's be fair, they, you know, this was the first discussion that this ever came before the Safety Path Committee, and unfortunately, you know, it occurred without the DDA's representation per se on, you know, before them in terms of, you know, explanation. So they're a well-meaning group also, just as you are, and that's why I'm suggesting that we sit down and have a little further discussion. I think, Sam, the same thing needs to occur regarding White Lake Road intersection, and really you are a township board member. And, I mean, that discussion has to take, you know, this has to be, one, it's a board decision, township board decision, whether to pursue the improvement, and two, it would be a DDA decision in terms of to what level you wish to participate. And I do agree that you should participate, you know, substantially, because our role is to improve Dixie Highway, but to that level, you will have to decide. But there has to be some discussion, I think, you know, with board representatives and DDA representatives in terms of to what extent you're willing to participate in White Lake Road. And at what terms? Because it's pretty hard for us to decide how to spend money from 2026 on, because this project is supposedly going to occur in 2027 or 2026, 2028 with Boyd Lake Road. And usually my experience has been with NDOT is the bill doesn't come due for a year or so. So, it could be 2028 or 2029 till the bill comes due. But, there has to be a cost participation agreement between the township board and the DDA for you to participate in it. That is how we've done it in the past. There was always with the CIA and the DDA, when township board was advancing funds to a specific DDA project, there was a cost participation agreement that the DDA, or the CIA, would, use the proceeds from taxes from financing to pay back the township board. So the same thing should occur here.
Okay.
And there should be agreement as to what level you wish to participate.
Okay. So it seems to me that we are in need of having, for sure, this meeting with the safety path, and also probably discussing the White Lake Road project before we can approve this budget. I know that the White Lake Road's not going to be in for many years, but we can at least have a discussion. So I think we should plan on moving this budget approval till the next meeting when we have more insight on what we're going to be responsible for. Right.
Well, I think it's also worthwhile to have, I would say, the same thing regarding the discussion with DDA as perhaps a discussion, with township supervisor regarding the cost participation between the DDA and the township on the intersection improvements also. Sam, I don't know, you may know, but is there still the additional funds that were left over from the road improvement village?
Yeah, a couple million.
Well, I think that should be part of the discussion, probably.
What is that from?
The millage, extra money
yeah,
for road
okay.
improvement, which that would fall into the right kind of road, the right kind of investment, that's a great point, because that's a couple million sitting there that we need to find a legitimate way to use it that was advertised and collected for, and road improvements, on one of the main arteries would be aligned with the intent of the millage, so
Right.
it keeps sitting there collecting interest, so that's another, doesn't have to come out of the general fund, that's another avenue we could look into to help contribute, I got a question that's off base real quick before I forget. The Citizens Advisory Committee, how often do they need to participate in our meetings? We're getting near the end of the year, and I don't know what our obligations are to involve them. And I just,
Your legal obligations to involve them have been met, because they are required to be actively involved during the development of the plan, and they were. Now, I'll leave it up to you, Sam, and the board members to determine what your moral obligations might be to them to involve them in future decisions. I've always felt that it's a big mistake to establish a group like that and not use them as a potential resource. So I would encourage you, to think about that.
They make great board members.
That's exactly right.
they appear to,
They-
yes.
You're only allowed to be mean to him.
Yeah. Better than the trustees.
That's right, they do. Well, it is a source of recruitment too. But also, I mean, when you start to get involved in things that are gonna involve special projects for which you want, sort of some boots on the ground volunteers to help advise and be part of the subcommittee, they're a great source to do that, because you've already got them in place.
Okay, thank you. I just, been thinking about that and I keep forgetting to ask somebody.
Okay, well, I think we should I'd like to make a motion to, extend the, budget approval until next month's meeting in November.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll be better prepared at that time. And I think the supervisor will be here to kind of go over this, because I think he created this. Did you help him create this budget that we have in front of us?
I did.
Okay.
At the time, though, we're still sorting through, the projection numbers, so it's been a bit, kind of a fluid process. So I actually have more information now than I did when I made my recommendations to the supervisor. So anyway, but I was asked to participate in it, yes.
Okay. So that's it for the report section. No public comment. Any other discussion points that you guys want to have before we adjourn?
Yeah, I just have some questions for Dick. Dick, do you have my contact information so you can schedule that special meeting?
I have it. I do believe I have it, as a matter of fact, but you know what? I know how to find it. We have all your contact information, but thank you, John. I will make sure that I believe I did put that into my contact information, so thank you.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Very good. Thank you, guys.